ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
This is CoreTV News on the Hour with Nifemi Oguntoye. And we'll begin with the good news. The former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Okewale, who was kidnapped about 2 weeks ago, has been released by his abductors. NBA President Augustine Alege said in a statement on Thursday night that his predecessor was released at about 11 p.m. on Thursday after 13 days in captivity. He, however, did not provide details of how Wale was freed or whether ransom was paid to secure his release. President Goodluck Jonathan said on Thursday that he has decided to run for re-election in February 2015. Jonathan met with top officials from the ruling People's Democratic Party and thanked them for their unanimous endorsement as the party's presidential candidate. The president told them he has accepted the offer and assured them that he would pick the nomination firm before the deadline expires next week. Jonathan's former re-election announcement will be made at a public event between November 7 and November 15, according to a presidential aide. The news was widely expected, especially after PDP state governors gave Jonathan their backing in September. The PDP has an unwritten rule that calls for rotational power aimed at appeasing voters across the religiously divided country. A religious group by the name Joint Muslim Forum has dismissed the recent court ruling which upheld the position of the Lagos state government on the ban of hijab in public schools. The group, in addition, has threatened to boycott the 2015 general elections if the ruling stays. Anita Fatudi was at the group's media briefing and brought back this report.
The Joint Muslim Forum expressed displeasure over the ruling, describing it as illogical, inexplicable and a miscarriage of justice.
What the Muslims are demanding in the issue of hijab is the Allah given fundamental human rights. They are not asking anyone to put hijab on Christian pupils. They want to dress the way the Quran commands them. Freedom of religion is one of the civil liberties enjoyed in a civil society. Lagos should not deny this religious right.
In what appears as obvious threat, the group says its members will use what they have to get what they want.
Election fever has gripped politicians as we draw near February 2015. We have resolved to give our votes to any candidate from any political party who is ready to grant us religious freedom. We will vote for those who will approve the use of hijab in schools, no matter what their political affiliations are. This suffering is too much. Lagos State government treats Muslims with disdain. Enough is enough. Our slogan for 2015 is therefore no hijab, no votes.
Even at the national level, Muslims don't have a president they can trust, a president who can assure them that there will be justice. Justice will be done. This president promised justice. He never went to justice. There's no justice in Nasarawa. Just as today, there is no justice in Alausa.
The group urged the Lagos government to promote religious harmony in the state.
Hijab must be allowed in schools and workplaces, including hospitals. Morning assembly prayers in school must be standardized and not left to the whims and caprices of the head teacher or principal. Arabic and Islamic religious knowledge teachers must be employed to teach the subjects in schools. Muslim science students should not be prevented from taking Islamic studies. Hijra holiday must be declared just like it is done in Osun State. Corona law must be amended to allow Muslims to claim their corpses for burial without delay.
Members of the group, however, dispel the notion that they are hell-bent on pursuing a political agenda. Anita Fatunji, CoreTV News, Lagos.
As reactions continue to trail the recent violent crisis that rocked the Osun State APC over its delegates' Congress in Osogbo, the state governor Rauf Aregbesola has described calls by the opposition PDP for a commission of inquiry on the issue as baseless, adding that the development has not affected the unity and oneness in the party in any negative form.
I'm not aware of any discord. Things are going normally. I think it's in their imagination. The discord they perhaps are commenting on must be a figment of their imagination. The party in Osun is calm and is conducting its affair as democratically possible as we can have it. So I don't see any problem at all with what you are doing in Osun.
The brickbats between the governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, and his predecessor, Kayode Fayemi, has continued unchecked as the two remain at each other's neck. The bone of contention this time is the multi-millionaire new government house completed and commissioned at the tail end of the Fayemi administration.
Fayose's team, at an earlier inspection of the new government house, reveals their findings on the cost of the villa to the public.
Out of this world luxury provided with 3.3 billion borrowed fund, market borrowed fund for Fayemi and his wife and children, and we know we for the state and its people.
But are there more that meet the eyes?
Before now, the past governor had intention of buying an helicopter. That is why an helipad was put on Okeayoba, so that anytime he comes to Ado, he just flies straight to that place. The idea was to separate himself from all of us completely. He does not want to see us. We are not important to him. Unfortunately, people of this state refuse to let him have his way.
So, what will the Fayose administration do with the new government house?
There are plans to see how that place can be put into better use. We'll see but it is almost certain that there's nothing anybody can do about that place, and that is why we want to let the public know that why must we put the state into this kind of situation, put the state into debt just to put this kind of facility.
The man in the eye of the storm, Kayode Fayemi, would however not let slip the opportunity to defend his action.
What there to react to such frivolous allegations? It's a joke. The guy is an alawada, and I think Nigerians really need to ask for a psychiatric test for anyone who is going into such an esteemed office.
Observers believe that a popular saying that it is the grass that suffers when two elephants fight captures the raging issue even as Ekiti citizens wait to see the implication for their well-being. Rashid, CoreTV News, Ado Ekiti.
The Nigeria Governors Forum, led by the Plateau State Governor Juna Jang, has rejected the position of the National Assembly on autonomy for local governments. It also hinted that the State House of Assemblies would reject the amendment to the Constitution by the time it's sent to them. The forum said in the statement that state lawmakers would be mobilized to vote against the provision, which is designed to provide independent funding for the councils, as well as insulate them from undue interference from state governments. The governors also accused some unnamed members of the National Assembly of using the conference committee to force through an amendment that was rejected by the Senate during the Constitution Amendment debates. It's CoreTV News live from Lagos. I'll be back after this break with more stories. Don't go away.
There is an Ebola virus epidemic in some West African countries. The Nigerian government wants you to be aware and watch out against the spread of Ebola in your community. Help keep our country safe and watch out for severe cases of fever, headaches, diarrhea, chest and abdominal pain, sore throat, cough, red eyes and bleeding from the eyes, ears and nose, especially when these symptoms are found in persons coming into Nigeria from other West African countries. Protect yourself. Wash your hands regularly with soap and running water or use a hand sanitizer. Avoid contact with the blood, urine, feces or saliva of animals like bats, monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees or infected persons. The Ebola virus is deadly. Don't catch it, don't spread it. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Welcome back. You can also reach us on any of our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/CoreTV News. And our Twitter handle at CoreTV News NG. You get to watch our news and other of our programs on YouTube. It's youtube.com/CoreTV. Leave a space and news. President Goodluck Jonathan says most of the allegations of human rights abuse leveled against Nigeria's security forces were exaggerated. He also told participants at an international workshop on civil-military cooperation and internal security operations in Abuja that efforts are on to review the use of military fatigue. President Jonathan pledged that any suspected case of abuse would be thoroughly investigated, but wants the human rights community to show more understanding.
It's a gathering of security operatives across the world on the need for effective civil-military cooperation during internal security operations. The three-day workshop is in line with the soft approach the Nigerian government says it is adopting in its counter-insurgency operation. But President Jonathan also used the opportunity to speak for the first time on allegations of human rights abuse leveled against troops at the front line.
I'm not saying there are no issues. There are issues. We are dealing with the issues. But the soldiers themselves need to be protected. They are also humans. They also have rights. And sometimes people, for some mischievous reasons, intend to blackmail government and blackmail the security services.
He appears convinced that Nigerian soldiers could not have carried out some of the abuses attributed to them and voiced his concerns about manipulation.
The use of the military camouflage, and that is why we are even trying to see how I know we discussed that we must review use of military camouflage and fatigue dresses by military and paramilitary agencies. And people who are supposed not to use them are using them. And so people the intrigues in society are so complex now for very reasons sometimes you don't even know. And with the social media and the power of manipulation using the computer, it's so powerful that there's a lot of deception going on.
For his part, the National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki explained that the workshop is a confidence-building measure in line with government's approach to ongoing operations.
We have been making concerted efforts to correct the current impression that our security forces are involved in widespread acts of human rights abuse, which is also condoned by government. We will all recall that we recently hosted an international conference on the observance of human rights, which was attended by the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Fatou Bensouda, and other international human rights luminaries. That event reinforced our commitment to attaining zero tolerance for human rights abuses for our security forces.
Also speaking at the event, former head of state Abdusalami Abubakar expressed a need for the authorities to take human rights issues seriously.
It is pertinent to note that the armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies take the issue of human rights seriously. Hence, the training curricula in all our military training establishments, both at the basic, intermediate, or strategic level training, include a component on human rights.
The Nigerian authorities say they are keen on ensuring that civil-military cooperation in theater of operation are cordial, in line with international best practices.
Meanwhile, the European Union has commended the soft approach the Nigerian authorities have adopted in addressing insurgency in the northeast of the country. EU Head of Delegation Michel Aaron said these at the opening of the three-day international workshop on civil-military cooperation in Abuja.
Civil-military cooperation can offer a relevant framework for the promotion of human rights when armed forces are interacting with local populations. The human rights component of the project funded by the European Union, which aims to improve such interaction, is also relevant for the operations against terrorism and insurgency in populated areas in Nigeria. For this reason, the main security agencies, the three armed forces, the police force and the Department of State Security are involved in its implementation. It is important to say that this project, proposing a complementary approach to the traditional conduct of counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operations, is one among the very few projects of this nature being implemented in Africa. I wish to congratulate the Nigerian authorities and armed forces for being part of this remarkable development. We are delighted to see the direct and dedicated involvement of so many Nigerian offices in the project at national level. This three-day workshop offers the great opportunity to engage with a number of European and international experts and to exchange experience from other civil-military operations in a complex environment and counter-terrorism operations in other African countries, as well as in the Middle East.
The news of a ceasefire resulting from the widely reported negotiation with the Boko Haram sect has been received with mixed feelings. Reports of attacks on some villages in Adamawa and Borno states have continued in spite of the ceasefire deal. Our public affairs analyst Edgar Amos says the recent abduction of about 100 girls by the insurgents has dashed the hope of many in Adamawa state.
Question to ask is, why would this attack still continue? There are a number of explanations. I've read recently where Danladi Amadou had said that those who are carrying out these attacks are actually not representing Boko Haram, are perhaps just criminals. There are also reports that perhaps the negotiation for the ceasefire was sealed with factions of the Boko Haram insurgents themselves. And it is also speculated that perhaps the news about the ceasefire had not gone down to the field commanders yet, given the fact that they were operating in different parts of the country. So what is clear, and I'm inclined to believe it, is that some negotiation had taken place. But the fact that there were still attacks after the ceasefire meant that maybe a section of the insurgents were not carried along in the ceasefire agreement. So perhaps that might have explained why these things have still continued. What is obviously clear is that we can do with some good news. This insurgency has gone on for too long, and that perhaps it is time the insurgency is stopped.
A member of the National Assembly, Anthony Madwait, however, says the military should be applauded for courageously taking on the insurgents.
They are doing the best they can. And I know in no distant time, if all the equipment we are expecting come into the country, we will be better for it. But for now, please permit me to commend the military on what they are doing.
Recently, we brought you a report on the deplorable state of road in Isheri North in Ogun State. Badly affected is the Riverview Estate, whose residents have continuously clamored for government's attention and partnership to rehabilitate the road. The residents have now gone further to vent their anger on a popular logistic company whose operations they claimed have contributed immensely to the worsening situation of the road in the area. Kazim Kasale's report is presented from our studios.
Anybody carry a anger, the person going to see Jama.
This is a scene that greeted CoreTV News Crew as the residents of Riverville Estate resolve to take up the issue of the bad roads leading into and fro within the estate, with those corporate organizations they say want to take them for a ride.
It is come and repair the road that, look at the trucks they are using. Each of those trucks is equivalent to about 5 to 6, 7 of the cars that are being used here. And yet DHL, in their arrogance, will not listen to anybody. They will not talk to anybody. They will write letters. They will not show up. They will not give any reply. I mean, as far as they are concerned, it is the rantings of ants in this place. And we are no longer going to allow it.
Why the argument and the propriety of the blockade by residents of the estate was on, they have had enough of what he described as the arrogance and conceitedness of the corporate organizations who don't even acknowledge them when they write letters to them on the way forward. He says the organization, in this case DHL, has done enough damage to the road and should join in effort to make it possible.
Individuals will do part of it. Corporate organizations will also lend their hands. That is how to coexist. We cannot say it is going to be Ogun State government alone that's going to do it. No, they may have their fault, all right? But DHL is the main culprit. I still want to say that without any fear of contradiction.
On the legality or otherwise of the move by residents of the estate to blockade the road, making it impossible for those they believe are taking them for a ride, George Akinola has this to say.
It's not illegal. It's not illegal because, you see, this road was broken in 4 places by the massive flood of 2010-2011. We repair the roads. The citizens have their own powers. And what we are doing now is we are picketing DHL. And this road that we repair, that the government is not giving us attention on, we repair the roads. We keep the roads in a state of constant repair. So if any organization is messing it up and they are refusing to cooperate, we exercise that right to call them to order.
Though this man, obviously an agent of the company, disagrees with the notion that his organization is not socially responsible. CoreTV News crew, however, saw a delegation of the company come back for a discussion on the way forward with the residents, giving preconditions which they say must be adhered to before the blockade, or as they term it, picketing will stop.
We'll take a break now and we'll be back with more. Don't go away.
Hello and welcome to Health Issues. This is CoreTV News Health Program.
Congenital disorder affecting the orofacial regions.
Solely in this category, bacterial hepatitis.
Feeding is a natural way of a mother.
This is a program that takes an in-depth look at health challenges. Faced by humans in our society.
Health issues only on CoreTV News.
Welcome back. An international team of scientists has been set up to determine the effectiveness of using the blood of Ebola survivors as treatment. It's hoped that antibodies used by the immune system to fight Ebola can be transferred from a survivor to a patient. The study will start in Guinea and is led by the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp, Belgium. The European Union has given 2.9 billion euros to fund the project. There are no widely available proven drugs or vaccines for Ebola, so the World Health Organization has backed the use of survivors' blood as the worst outbreak of Ebola in history continues to get worse. And that wraps it this hour on CoreTV News. Do join us again at the top of the hour for more stories. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Thanks for being there.